There is a power in this universe that is greater than you, greater than me, greater than all of us combined. And when you learn to align yourself with that power, when you learn to put that divine presence first in everything you do, your entire life transforms in ways you cannot even begin to comprehend right now. You see, most people go through their lives backwards. They wake up in the morning and immediately start thinking about what they need to do, what they need to accomplish, what problems they need to solve, who they need to impress. They put their ego first. They put their fears first. They put their doubts first. And then they wonder why life feels so hard, why success seems so elusive, why happiness always seems just beyond their reach. But there is another way. There is a way of living that changes everything. And it starts with a simple but profound shift in your awareness. It starts with understanding that you are not just this body, you are not just this mind, you are not just this personality that has been conditioned by your past experiences and your cultural programming. You are something far greater. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. You came from the divine, you are connected to the divine, and you will return to the divine. When you truly understand this, when you really get it at a level that goes beyond intellectual knowledge, you realize that putting God first is not some religious obligation or some moral duty that you have to fulfill. It is simply the most intelligent, the most practical, the most effective way to live your life. Because when you put God first, you tap into an infinite source of creativity, intelligence, love, and power that already exists within you. Now, let me be clear about what I mean when I say God. I am not talking about some old man with a beard sitting on a throne in the sky, judging you, punishing you, keeping score of all your mistakes. I am talking about the creative intelligence that brings worlds into existence, that causes flowers to bloom, that makes your heart beat without you having to think about it, that orchestrates the perfect movement of planets and stars. This is the power I am talking about. This is the presence that exists everywhere in everything, including you. And here is what most people do not understand. This divine presence is not separate from you. It is not something outside of you that you have to beg for help or convince to give you what you want. It is the very essence of who you are. It is your source. It is where you came from before you arrived in this physical body, and it is where you will return when this physical life is complete. When you put God first, what you are really doing is remembering who you truly are. You are aligning with your highest self. You are connecting with the part of you that knows no limitations, that knows no fear, that knows only love and infinite possibility. And when you live from that place, when you make your decisions from that place, when you take your actions from that place, everything changes. Think about it this way. When you put God first, you are no longer operating from a place of lack. You are no longer coming from a consciousness that says, I do not have enough, I am not enough, there is not enough. Instead, you are coming from a consciousness of abundance, a consciousness that knows that the source of all things is infinite and unlimited. And what you focus on expands. What you put your attention on grows in your life. So when you start your day by connecting with the divine, when you take time to be still and remember your true nature, when you ask yourself, what would love do here? What would my highest self choose in this situation? You are automatically aligning yourself with the flow of the universe. You are tapping into a wisdom that is far greater than your limited ego mind could ever access. And here is the beautiful thing. When you put God first, you do not have to figure everything out. You do not have to have all the answers. You do not have to control every detail of your life. You simply have to trust. You have to have faith. You have to know that when you align with the divine, you are being guided, you are being supported, you are being led to exactly where you need to be. This does not mean that life becomes easy or that you will never face challenges. It means that you face those challenges from a completely different place. Instead of facing them with fear and anxiety and worry, you face them with peace and confidence and trust, because you know that you are not alone. You know that there is a power working through you, a power that is always for you, never against you. Let me tell you something else about putting God first. When you do this, when you really commit to this way of living, you stop seeking approval from others. You stop trying to please everyone around you. You stop living your life according to what other people think you should do, or who they think you should be, because you realize that there is only one approval you need, and that is the approval of your own higher self, your own divine nature. And when you live from that place, something miraculous happens. You become authentic. You become real. You stop pretending to be someone you are not. You stop hiding your true feelings and your true desires. You start showing up in the world as who you really are. And ironically, when you stop trying to get everyone to like you, when you stop performing for others, you actually become more magnetic, more attractive, more influential. Because people can sense authenticity. They can feel when someone is living from their truth. Now, I want to talk to you about how you actually put God first in a practical way. Because this is not just some abstract spiritual concept. This is something you can practice every single day in very concrete ways. First, you start your day with the divine. Before you check your phone, before you turn on the news, before you jump into all the demands and distractions of the day, you take time to be still. You meditate, you pray, you sit in silence and connect with that presence within you. Even if it is just 5 minutes, even if it is just 1 minute, you make that connection first. You remember who you are. You align with your source. And in that moment of stillness, you set your intention for the day. You ask yourself, how can I serve today? How can I be an instrument of love today? How can I bring more light into the world today? You are not asking, what can I get today? How can I manipulate circumstances to go my way? How can I prove my worth? You are asking how you can give, how you can contribute, how you can be a channel for the divine to work through you. Second, you trust the guidance you receive. When you connect with God, when you connect with your higher self, you will receive intuition. You will get feelings, hunches, ideas, inspirations. And your job is to trust those inner promptings and act on them, even when they do not make logical sense to your rational mind. Your ego will always want proof. Your ego will always want guarantees. Your ego will always want to know exactly how things are going to work out before you take the first step. But faith does not work that way. Faith means you take the step even when you cannot see the entire staircase. Faith means you follow your inner guidance even when everyone around you thinks you are crazy. And here is what I have learned. Every single time I have followed that inner voice, every single time I have trusted that divine guidance, it has led me to exactly where I needed to be. Not always where I thought I wanted to be, but always where I needed to be for my highest good and my greatest growth. Third, you let go of attachment to outcomes. This is a big one. Most people put their ego first, not God first, because they are so attached to specific outcomes. They want things to happen in a certain way, at a certain time, in a certain order. And when things do not go according to their plan, they get frustrated, they get angry, they lose faith. But when you put God first, you surrender the outcome. You do your best, you take inspired action, you show up fully, and then you let go. You trust that whatever happens is for your highest good, even if you cannot see it in the moment. You know that the divine has a plan for you that is far greater than anything your limited mind could conceive. This does not mean you do not have goals or dreams or desires. It means you hold them lightly. You are not desperately clinging to them. You are not defining your worth by whether you achieve them or not. You are simply moving in the direction of what brings you joy and fulfillment, and you trust that the universe will handle the details. Fourth, you look for God in everything and everyone. When you truly put God first, you start to see the divine everywhere. You see it in nature, in the smile of a stranger, in the eyes of your children, in the challenges that test you, in the blessings that surprise you. You realize that everything is conspiring for your growth, for your evolution, for your awakening. And when you see God in everyone, you cannot help but treat people with more kindness, more compassion, more patience, because you recognize that the same divine spark that lives in you lives in them. You see beyond their personality, beyond their behavior, beyond their mistakes, and you see the soul beneath it all. And when you interact with people from that level, you bring out the best in them. You help them remember who they really are. Fifth, you practice gratitude constantly. Gratitude is one of the fastest ways to align with the divine. Because when you are grateful, you are acknowledging the abundance that already exists in your life. You are recognizing the blessings that surround you. You are saying yes to life, exactly as it is right now. And here is the thing about gratitude. It is not just about being thankful when things go well. It is about finding the blessing in everything, even in the challenges, even in the difficulties, even in the pain, because every experience you have is an opportunity for growth. Every obstacle you face is an invitation to become stronger, wiser, more compassionate. When you put God first and practice gratitude, you shift from a victim consciousness to a creator consciousness. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start asking, what is this teaching me? How is this serving my growth? How can I use this experience to become more of who I am meant to be? Now, let me address something that I know comes up for a lot of people when we talk about putting God first. Some people worry that if they focus on God, if they focus on spirituality, they will become weak or passive or ineffective in the world. They think that putting God first means you do not pursue success or achievement or material goals. They think it means you just sit around meditating all day and hoping that everything works out. But that is not what I am talking about at all. When you put God first, you do not become less ambitious or less driven. You become more effective, more purposeful, more powerful, because now your ambition is aligned with something greater than your ego. Now your drive is fueled by a desire to serve and contribute, not just to accumulate and impress. When you put God first, you still set goals, you still take action, you still work hard, but you do it from a completely different energy. You do it with joy instead of stress. You do it with faith instead of fear. You do it with love instead of desperation. And that changes everything. Think about the great masters, the great teachers, the great leaders throughout history. Were they passive? Were they weak? No. They were incredibly powerful, incredibly effective, incredibly influential. But their power came from a different source. It came from within. It came from their connection to something greater than themselves. And because of that connection, they were able to accomplish things that seemed impossible. You have that same power within you. You have access to that same source. The only thing standing between you and that power is your belief that you are separate from it. The only thing blocking your connection to the divine is your identification with your ego, your attachment to your limited sense of self. When you let go of that identification, when you release that attachment, when you remember that you are not your body, you are not your mind, you are not your story, you are not your past, you tap into a power that is unlimited. You access a creativity that has no boundaries. You connect with a love that knows no conditions. And from that place, you can create anything you want. You can accomplish anything you desire. You can become anyone you choose to be. Not because you are striving and struggling and forcing things to happen, but because you are allowing the divine to work through you, to create through you, to express through you. This is what it means to be a co-creator with God. You are not doing it alone. You are not separate from the source. You are an extension of the source, an expression of the source, a channel for the source. And when you know that, really know that, you live with a confidence and a peace that nothing can shake. Let me share something with you about what happens when you consistently put God first. Your whole relationship with fear changes. See, most people spend their entire lives running from fear or fighting against fear. They make decisions based on what they are afraid of. They avoid taking risks because they are afraid of failure. They stay in situations that do not serve them because they are afraid of change. They do not speak their truth because they are afraid of rejection. But when you put God first, fear loses its power over you. Not because you never feel fear anymore, but because you understand what fear really is. Fear is just your ego trying to protect you, trying to keep you safe, trying to keep you small. And while you can appreciate that your ego is trying to help, you do not have to let it run your life. When you are connected to God, when you are aligned with your higher self, you have a deeper knowing that you are always safe, you are always supported, you are always exactly where you need to be. And from that knowing, you can acknowledge the fear, you can thank it for trying to protect you, and then you can take the action anyway. You can move forward in spite of the fear. You can do what scares you because you know that on the other side of that fear is your freedom, your growth, your expansion. I want you to think about this for a moment. What would you do if you knew you could not fail? What would you attempt if you had absolute faith that everything would work out for your highest good? What risks would you take? What dreams would you pursue? What truth would you speak? When you put God first, you can live like that. Not because you have a guarantee that things will go exactly as you plan, but because you have faith that no matter what happens, you will be okay. You will grow from it. You will learn from it. You will become stronger and wiser because of it. And here is another beautiful thing that happens when you put God first. Your relationships transform. Because when you are no longer coming from neediness, when you are no longer looking for other people to complete you or validate you or make you happy, you can show up in relationships as a whole person. You can love without attachment. You can give without expecting anything in return. You can be fully present without trying to control or manipulate or fix the other person. When you put God first, you realize that your happiness does not depend on anyone else. Your peace does not come from external circumstances. Your worth is not determined by what other people think of you. All of that comes from within, from your connection to the divine. And when you know that, you are free to love people without needing anything from them. You are free to enjoy relationships without clinging to them. You are free to let people be who they are without trying to change them. And paradoxically, when you stop needing people, when you stop trying to get love, you actually experience more love. Because you are now giving love freely, offering love unconditionally. And that kind of love is magnetic. That kind of love is transformative. That kind of love changes everyone it touches. Now, I know that some of you might be thinking, this all sounds wonderful, but how do I actually do this? How do I put God first when I have bills to pay, when I have responsibilities, when I have people depending on me, when I live in a world that is constantly demanding my attention and my energy? And here is what I want you to understand. Putting God first is not about withdrawing from the world. It is not about abandoning your responsibilities. It is not about ignoring the practical realities of life. It is about bringing a different consciousness to everything you do. You can pay your bills with God consciousness. You can fulfill your responsibilities with God consciousness. You can meet the demands of the world with God consciousness. The question is not what you are doing, but who you are being while you are doing it. Are you doing it from fear or from love? Are you doing it from scarcity or from abundance? Are you doing it from ego or from spirit? When you put God first, you bring the presence of the divine into every activity, every conversation, every moment of your day. You wash the dishes with mindfulness. You drive your car with awareness. You have difficult conversations with compassion. You handle challenges with grace. You celebrate success with humility. Everything becomes a spiritual practice. Everything becomes an opportunity to express the divine through you. There is no separation between the sacred and the mundane. There is no division between your spiritual life and your practical life. It is all one. It is all God, expressing as you, through you, in you. And when you live like that, when you bring that consciousness to everything you do, work stops feeling like work. Obligations stop feeling like burdens. Life stops feeling like a struggle. Not because things necessarily become easier, but because you are experiencing them from a completely different place. You are flowing with life instead of resisting it. You are dancing with the universe instead of fighting against it. Let me tell you about surrender, because this is a key part of putting God first. Surrender does not mean giving up. Surrender does not mean becoming passive or resigned. Surrender means letting go of your attachment to how things should be and accepting what is. It means releasing your need to control everything and trusting that there is a higher intelligence at work. Your ego hates surrender. Your ego wants to be in charge. Your ego wants to figure everything out, plan everything, control everything. But here is the truth. You cannot control life. You cannot control other people. You cannot even control your own thoughts and emotions most of the time. So why waste your energy trying? When you surrender to God, when you surrender to the flow of life, you are not giving up your power. You are actually stepping into your true power. Because now you are not fighting against reality. You are not arguing with what is. You are accepting this moment exactly as it is. And from that acceptance, you can take appropriate action. Surrender is the opposite of resistance. And resistance is what causes suffering. When you resist what is, when you argue with reality, when you insist that things should be different than they are, you create pain for yourself. But when you surrender, when you accept, when you say yes to this moment, suffering dissolves. You may still experience challenges, you may still feel uncomfortable emotions, but there is no suffering. Because suffering is the resistance to what is happening, not the experience itself. When you put God first and practice surrender, you discover a peace that is not dependent on circumstances. You find a joy that is not conditional on everything going your way. You access a strength that comes from knowing that no matter what happens, you are connected to an infinite source of power and wisdom. And here is what I have learned about God, about this divine presence that I am inviting you to put first. God does not judge you. God does not punish you. God does not keep score of your mistakes. God is pure love, pure acceptance, pure compassion. God sees you exactly as you are, with all your flaws and all your fears and all your failures. And God loves you completely, unconditionally, eternally. The only one judging you is you. The only one punishing you is you. The only one keeping score is you. And when you put God first, when you see yourself through the eyes of the divine, you start to let go of all that judgment. You start to forgive yourself. You start to accept yourself. You start to love yourself. And self-love is not selfish. Self-love is essential because you cannot give what you do not have. You cannot love others if you do not love yourself. You cannot offer compassion to others if you are constantly beating yourself up. You cannot be a channel for the divine if you are blocked by self-hatred and self-criticism. When you put God first and see yourself as the divine sees you, you realize that you are worthy just as you are, not because of what you have accomplished or what you look like or what other people think of you. You are worthy because you exist. You are worthy because you are a creation of God. You are worthy because the same power that creates universes chose to express itself as you. Think about that for a moment. Out of all the infinite possibilities, out of all the countless ways the divine could express itself, it chose to express itself as you. Your life, your personality, your gifts, your challenges, your story, all of it is a unique expression of God. There has never been another you, and there will never be another you. You are absolutely unique, absolutely irreplaceable, absolutely essential to the tapestry of creation. When you really get that, when you really understand that, how can you not put God first? How can you not honor that divine presence within you? How can you not live in alignment with your highest purpose? And here is the thing about your purpose. You do not have to go searching for it. You do not have to figure it out. Your purpose is not something outside of you that you need to find. Your purpose is built into who you are. Your purpose is to be yourself, fully and completely and authentically. Your purpose is to express the divine in your own unique way. When you put God first, your purpose becomes clear, not through thinking about it, not through analyzing it, but through following your joy, through listening to your heart, through trusting your intuition. What brings you alive? What makes you forget about time? What would you do even if you never got paid for it? That is where your purpose lies. That is where God is calling you. And here is the beautiful thing. When you follow that call, when you align with your purpose, when you do what you are here to do, you do not have to worry about money or security or success. All of that takes care of itself. Because when you are in alignment with your purpose, when you are being who you are meant to be, the universe supports you. Opportunities appear. Resources show up. The right people come into your life at the right time. This is not magical thinking. This is how the universe works. When you are living in alignment with the divine, when you are expressing your true nature, you are in the flow. And in the flow, everything is effortless. Things just happen. Doors open. Synchronicities occur. Miracles become commonplace. But when you are out of alignment, when you are trying to be someone you are not, when you are living according to other people's expectations instead of your own inner truth, life is hard. You struggle. You push. You force. And even when you achieve success, it does not feel satisfying because it is not authentic success. It is not your success. It is someone else's idea of what success should look like. When you put God first, you stop chasing someone else's dream and you start living your own. You stop trying to fit into a mold that was never meant for you. You stop sacrificing your joy for some future achievement that you think will finally make you happy. You start living now. Being happy now, expressing yourself now. Because here is the truth. This moment is all you have. The past is gone. The future is not here yet. All you ever have is this present moment. And when you put God first, you are fully present in this moment. You are not lost in regrets about the past or worries about the future. You are here, now, alive, aware, awake. And in this moment, when you are fully present, you can access everything you need. You can access the wisdom of the divine. You can access the creativity of the universe. You can access the peace that passes understanding. All of it is available to you right now, in this moment, when you put God first. So how do you do it? How do you put God first starting right now? You begin with a choice. You make a decision. You say to yourself, I am going to live differently. I am going to align with something greater than my ego. I am going to trust that there is a divine intelligence guiding my life, and I am going to follow that guidance. And then you take the first step. You sit in silence for a few minutes. You connect with that presence within you. You ask for guidance. You listen for that still, small voice that knows the way. And then you trust what you hear. You act on it. You follow it, even if it scares you, even if it does not make sense, even if everyone around you thinks you are crazy. Because here is what I know. That voice within you, that divine guidance, will never lead you astray. It will always guide you toward your highest good. It will always show you the path that is meant for you. And when you follow that path, when you trust that guidance, your life becomes an adventure. It becomes exciting. It becomes meaningful. You stop sleepwalking through life. You stop going through the motions. You stop living on autopilot. You wake up. You become conscious. You start really living instead of just existing. And as you continue to put God first, as you make it a daily practice, as you build your spiritual muscles, something shifts inside of you. You become more confident, not in an egotistical way, but in a quiet, grounded way. You know who you are, you know where you came from, you know where you are going, and nothing can shake that knowing. You become more peaceful, not because your life becomes problem-free, but because you are no longer disturbed by the ups and downs. You understand that everything is temporary, everything is changing, everything is flowing, and you flow with it instead of resisting it. You become more loving. Not just toward others, but toward yourself. Not just toward people who are easy to love, but toward everyone, even people who challenge you, even people who hurt you. Because you see the divine in everyone. You see that we are all connected, we are all one. We are all expressions of the same source, and you become more generous. Not just with your money, but with your time, your energy, your attention, your presence. Because you know that you are not separate from others. What you give to others, you give to yourself. What you do for others, you do for yourself. Because there is only one of us here. This is the transformation that happens when you put God first. This is the life that becomes possible when you align with the divine. This is the person you become when you remember who you really are. So I invite you today to make that choice. I invite you to put God first, not as a religious obligation, not as a moral duty, but as a practical, powerful, life-changing choice. I invite you to connect with that presence within you, to trust that guidance, to follow that inner voice, to align with your highest self, and watch what happens. Watch how your life transforms. Watch how obstacles dissolve. Watch how opportunities appear. Watch how you become more of who you are meant to be. This is not about perfection. You will make mistakes. You will forget. You will get caught up in the drama of life. You will let your ego take over sometimes. And that is okay. That is all part of the process. The important thing is that you keep coming back. You keep reconnecting. You keep choosing God over ego, love over fear, faith over doubt. Every moment is a new opportunity to put God first. Every breath is a chance to remember who you are. Every choice is an invitation to align with the divine. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes. The more you practice it, the more natural it feels. Until one day, putting God first is not something you have to try to do. It is just who you are. It is just how you live. And when you reach that point, when putting God first becomes your default way of being, you will look back on your life and you will see how far you have come. You will see how much you have grown. You will see how different you are from the person you used to be. And you will be grateful. Grateful for the journey. Grateful for the lessons. Grateful for the challenges that made you stronger. Grateful for the blessings that showed you love. Grateful for the divine presence that has been with you all along, guiding you, supporting you, loving you unconditionally. This is the promise of putting God first. This is the gift that is available to every single one of us, not just to special people, not just to spiritual masters, not just to saints and sages, to you, to me, to everyone who is willing to make that choice, to take that step, to trust that guidance. So start today, start right now. Put God first in this moment. Connect with that presence within you. Align with your highest self. Choose love over fear, choose faith over doubt, choose trust over control, and watch your life transform in ways you never thought possible. Because when you put God first, everything else falls into place. Not in the way your ego expects, but in the way that is perfect for your soul's growth. Not according to your timeline, but according to divine timing. Not the way you planned, but the way that serves your highest good. Trust the process. Trust the journey. Trust the divine presence that is guiding you every step of the way. And know that you are loved, you are supported, you are never alone. God is not somewhere far away. God is right here, right now, within you, as you, expressing through you. Put God first, and everything you have been searching for, everything you have been longing for, everything you have been working toward will find its way to you. Not because you are chasing it, but because you are finally in alignment with who you really are. And who you really are is magnificent, powerful, divine, unlimited. This is your birthright. This is your true nature. This is who you have always been, even when you forgot. So remember now. Choose now. Put God first now. And step into the life you were always meant to live. You know, right now, in this very moment, there's something weighing on your heart. There's something that's been keeping you up at night. There's a situation in your life that feels unbearable, and you've been carrying it around like a heavy stone, trying to figure it out, trying to control it, trying to make it turn out the way you think it should. And I want to tell you something that might just change everything for you today. It's time to put that burden down. It's time to leave it in God's hands. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, but I've tried everything. I've prayed, I've hoped, I've worked so hard, and nothing's changed. And that's exactly the point. You've been trying to do it all yourself. You've been holding on so tight to your problems, to your pain, to your circumstances, that you've forgotten something fundamental about how this universe works. You've forgotten that there's a power greater than you, a wisdom far beyond your limited perspective, and an intelligence that orchestrates everything in perfect timing. When you're in pain, when you're hurting, when you're going through something that feels like it's tearing you apart, it's the most natural thing in the world to try to fix it yourself. We're conditioned to believe that we have to control everything, that we have to have all the answers, that if we just work hard enough, or think hard enough, or worry hard enough, we can somehow force life to bend to our will. But let me tell you something that's going to set you free. You were never meant to carry these burdens alone. You were never designed to figure everything out by yourself. And the moment you truly understand this, the moment you really let it sink into your consciousness, everything shifts. God sees your pain. Every tear you've cried in the darkness, every moment you felt alone, every time your heart has broken into what feels like a million pieces, none of it has gone unnoticed. None of it has been ignored. The divine presence that created you, that breathed life into you, that knows every single hair on your head, sees everything you're going through. And not only does God see your pain, but God hears your cry. Every prayer, every desperate plea, every whispered help me in the middle of the night when you couldn't sleep, every single one has been heard. But here's where most people get stuck. They think that because they've prayed and things haven't changed yet, that God isn't listening. They think that because they're still in pain, still in the struggle, still in the darkness, that somehow they've been abandoned. And this couldn't be further from the truth. You see, God's timing is not your timing. God's ways are not your ways. And what you're perceiving as silence is actually the universe rearranging itself on your behalf. Think about it this way. When you plant a seed in the ground, you don't dig it up every single day to check if it's growing. You don't stand over it and worry and stress and try to force it to sprout faster. You plant it, you water it, you give it sunlight, and then you trust. You trust the process. You trust that beneath the surface, in the darkness of the soil, something miraculous is happening. The seed is breaking open, roots are forming, life is preparing to burst forth. But all of this happens in a time frame that the seed knows. not in the time frame you demand. Your life works the same way. The challenges you're facing right now, the pain you're experiencing, the situations that seem impossible, they're all seeds that have been planted. And yes, it's dark right now. Yes, it feels like nothing is happening. Yes, it seems like your prayers are falling on deaf ears. But I promise you, beneath the surface of what you can see, God is working. The universe is conspiring on your behalf. Things are shifting and changing and moving in ways that you cannot perceive with your limited human perspective. The problem is, we want instant results. We want our pain to disappear overnight. We want our problems solved immediately. We want what we want, and we want it now. And when it doesn't happen according to our schedule, we lose faith. We start to doubt. We begin to think that we're doing something wrong, or that we're not worthy, or that God has forgotten about us. But this is where we need to shift our understanding completely. Leaving it in God's hands doesn't mean sitting back and doing nothing. It doesn't mean being passive or giving up or resigning yourself to misery. What it means is doing what you can do, taking the actions that are yours to take, and then releasing your attachment to the outcome. It means understanding that you're not the one in control of how things unfold. You're not the director of this movie. You're not the author who gets to write every single plot twist. You're a participant in a much larger story, and there's a wisdom guiding that story that's far greater than anything you could comprehend. When you truly leave something in God's hands, you're acknowledging that you don't have all the answers. You're admitting that your perspective is limited. You're recognizing that what you think you want might not actually be what's best for you. And this takes tremendous courage. It takes tremendous faith, because it means letting go of control. And for most of us, that's the scariest thing in the world. But here's what happens when you really do this. When you really surrender your burdens, when you really trust that God has got this, when you really believe that the universe is working for you and not against you, a weight lifts. The anxiety that's been crushing your chest starts to ease. The fear that's been keeping you paralyzed begins to fade. And in its place comes a peace that surpasses all understanding. Not because your circumstances have changed yet, but because your relationship to those circumstances has transformed. You stop waking up every morning with that immediate rush of dread. You stop going to bed every night with your mind racing through all the worst-case scenarios. You stop carrying that tension in your shoulders, that knot in your stomach, that heaviness in your heart, because you finally understood that this isn't all on you. You finally realized that you don't have to have all the figured out. You finally accepted that it's okay to not be in control. And here's the beautiful paradox. The moment you stop trying to control everything, the moment you surrender to the flow of life, the moment you trust in something greater than yourself, that's when things actually start to shift. That's when solutions appear that you never could have thought of. That's when doors open that you didn't even know existed. That's when people show up in your life who bring exactly what you need. That's when circumstances align in ways that seem almost miraculous. But you have to understand something important. God's plan for you might not look like your plan for you. The way your life unfolds might not match the picture you had in your mind. And this is actually a blessing, even though it doesn't feel like it at the time. Because your limited perspective can only see what you think you want based on your past experiences, your conditioning, your fears, and your ego's desires. But God sees the bigger picture. God knows what you actually need to grow, to evolve, to become the person you're meant to be. Sometimes what looks like a rejection is actually protection. Sometimes what feels like a delay is actually divine timing. Sometimes what seems like a door closing is actually the universe redirecting you to something better. But you can't see this when you're in the middle of the pain. You can't understand it when you're in the thick of the struggle. You can only see it when you look back, when you're on the other side, when you realize that everything happened exactly as it needed to happen. I know you're hurting right now. I know you're tired. I know you've been strong for so long and you just want this to be over. I know you've been praying and hoping and doing everything you know how to do, and you're exhausted. And I want you to know that it's okay to be tired. It's okay to feel weak. It's okay to admit that you can't do this alone. Because that admission, that vulnerability, that honest acknowledgement of your limitations, that's not weakness. That's actually the beginning of true strength. True strength isn't about never breaking. It's not about always being in control. It's not about having all the answers or never showing your pain. True strength is about knowing when to hold on and when to let go. It's about doing your part and then trusting God to do the rest. It's about being willing to walk through the darkness with faith, even when you can't see where you're going. And faith, real faith, isn't about being certain of the outcome. It's not about knowing exactly how things are going to turn out. Real faith is about trusting the process even when you can't see the result. It's about believing that you're being guided even when the path is unclear. It's about knowing that you're being held even when you feel like you're falling. You see, God hears your cry not just as sound, but as the deepest longing of your soul. And the response isn't always what you expect. Sometimes the answer to your prayer isn't getting what you asked for. Sometimes the answer is getting what you need. Sometimes the answer is developing the strength to handle whatever comes. Sometimes the answer is learning to find peace regardless of your circumstances. Sometimes the answer is becoming a different person, someone who no longer needs the situation to change in order to be okay. This is the transformation that happens when you truly leave it in God's hands. You stop being controlled by your circumstances. You stop letting external conditions determine your internal state. You start to understand that peace isn't something you find when everything works out the way you want. Peace is something you cultivate from within, regardless of what's happening around you. And I want to be clear about something. Leaving it in God's hands doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you become cold or detached or indifferent. It means you care deeply, you give it your all, you do everything that's genuinely yours to do, and then you release the outcome. You trust that whatever happens, even if it's not what you wanted, even if it's not what you expected, it's what's needed for your highest good and your greatest growth. Think about the times in your life when things didn't work out the way you planned. Think about the times when you were devastated because something you wanted so badly didn't happen, or something you loved so much was taken away. Now look at where you are today. Can you see how those moments, as painful as they were, led you to something better? Can you see how those closed doors eventually led you to open windows? Can you see how what felt like the worst thing that could happen actually became a turning point? This is the pattern of how life works when you're aligned with the divine flow. This is what happens when you trust in something greater than yourself. This is the evidence that God is always working on your behalf, even when it doesn't feel like it, even when you can't see it, even when you want to give up. Your pain is not permanent. Your struggle is not your identity. Your current circumstances are not your final destination. They're just a chapter in your story, and the author of your story is writing something far more beautiful than you could write for yourself. But you have to let the story unfold. You have to stop trying to skip ahead to the end. You have to stop trying to rewrite every scene that doesn't match your expectations. When you're going through difficult times, it's easy to forget who you really are. It's easy to get so consumed by the problem that you lose sight of your own divine nature. But you are not your problems. You are not your pain. You are not your circumstances. You are a spiritual being having a human experience, and that spiritual essence within you is connected to the same power that created galaxies and orchestrates the perfect harmony of nature. That means you have access to infinite wisdom. You have access to unlimited strength. You have access to a peace that exists beyond all understanding. But you can only access these things when you get out of your own way. You can only tap into this power when you stop trying to do everything yourself. You can only experience this peace when you surrender your need to control. And surrender is not defeat. Let me say that again because this is so important. Surrender is not giving up. Surrender is not admitting failure. Surrender is acknowledging that there's a greater intelligence at work and you're choosing to align with it rather than fight against it. Surrender is the ultimate act of faith. It's saying, I trust that I'm being taken care of even when I can't see how. I trust that everything is working out for my highest good, even when it doesn't look like it. I trust that God has got this, even when I feel lost. This trust, this faith, this willingness to surrender, it changes everything. It changes your energy. It changes how you show up in the world. It changes what you attract into your life. Because when you're not desperately clinging and grasping and forcing and controlling, you create space for miracles to happen. You create an opening for grace to flow in. You become a vessel through which the divine can work. And God is always trying to work through you. God is always trying to guide you. God is always trying to show you the way. But if you're too busy running around in fear and panic and anxiety, if you're too caught up in your own limited thinking and your own desperate attempts to fix everything, you can't hear the guidance. You can't see the signs. You can't feel the nudges that are trying to point you in the right direction. Leaving it in God's hands creates the stillness necessary to receive divine guidance. It creates the calm necessary to hear the whispers of intuition. It creates the clarity necessary to see the path that's being illuminated for you. And when you start to see these things, when you start to notice the synchronicities and the small miracles and the perfect timing of events, your faith deepens, your trust strengthens, your peace expands. You start to realize that you're never alone. You start to understand that you're always supported. You start to recognize that even in your darkest moments, even when you felt abandoned, even when you thought no one could possibly understand what you were going through, God was there. God was holding you. God was carrying you through. And those prayers you thought weren't being answered, they were being answered all along, just not in the way you expected, not in the timing you demanded, not in the form you thought you needed, but in the way that was actually best for you, in the timing that was actually perfect for your growth, in the form that was actually aligned with your highest good. Every single thing you've been through has been preparing you for something. Every challenge has been teaching you something. Every hardship has been strengthening you in some way. And I know it's hard to see this when you're in the middle of the storm. I know it's difficult to believe this when you're drowning in pain, but it's true nonetheless. Your struggles are not punishments. Your difficulties are not evidence that you've done something wrong or that you're not worthy or that God has turned away from you. They're invitations to grow. They're opportunities to develop faith. They're chances to discover strength you didn't know you had. They're doorways to a deeper understanding of yourself and your connection to the recite, divine. And when you can shift your perspective to see your challenges this way, when you can reframe your pain as a catalyst for transformation, when you can view your struggles as sacred assignments rather than cruel punishments, everything changes. The same circumstances that were making you bitter start making you better. The same situations that were filling you with resentment start filling you with resilience. The same experiences that were breaking you down start building you up. This is the alchemy that happens when you truly leave it in God's hands. This is the magic that occurs when you surrender your burdens and trust the process. You don't become someone who never has problems. You become someone who handles problems differently. You don't become someone who never feels pain. You become someone who moves through pain with more grace. You don't become someone who never struggles. You become someone who struggles with faith instead of fear. And faith isn't the absence of doubt. Faith isn't pretending everything is fine when it's not. Faith isn't forcing yourself to smile when you want to cry. Real faith is being honest about where you are while still trusting where you're going. Real faith is acknowledging the difficulty while still believing in the possibility. Real faith is feeling the pain while still holding on to hope. Hope is not naive optimism. Hope is not denying reality. Hope is a spiritual practice. It's a choice you make every single day to believe that things can get better, even when you have no evidence. It's a decision to keep going, even when you're exhausted. It's a commitment to trust, even when you're scared. And every time you choose hope over despair, every time you choose faith over fear, every time you choose to trust God instead of trying to control everything yourself, you're building your spiritual strength. You're deepening your connection to the divine. You're becoming more aligned with your true nature. And this alignment is what ultimately brings the peace you're seeking. Because peace was never meant to come from having a perfect life. Peace was never meant to come from having all your problems solved. Peace was never meant to come from getting everything you want exactly when you want it. Peace comes from knowing that no matter what happens, you're going to be okay. Peace comes from trusting that you're being guided. Peace comes from believing that God has got you, and God does have you. Right now, in this moment, regardless of what you're going through, regardless of how bad things look, regardless of how much pain you're in, God has you. You are held, you are loved, you are supported. You are not alone. You have never been alone. You will never be alone. The divine presence that breathed life into you at the beginning is with you now and will be with you always. This presence knows your name. This presence feels your pain. This presence hears your cry. And this presence is working on your behalf in ways you cannot see, in dimensions you cannot perceive, through means you cannot understand. Your job is not to figure it all out. Your job is not to make it all happen. Your job is not to force and push and control. Your job is to show up. Your job is to do the next right thing. Your job is to take one step at a time. And then your job is to trust, to have faith, to leave it in God's hands. When you do this, when you really do this, you'll start to notice things. You'll start to see how you're being guided. You'll start to recognize how doors are opening at exactly the right time. You'll start to realize how people are showing up with exactly what you need. You'll start to understand how everything is connected, how everything is orchestrated, how nothing is random. You'll look back at the times you thought you were lost, and you'll see that you were actually being redirected. You'll look back at the times you thought you were broken, and you'll see that you were actually being rebuilt into something stronger. You'll look back at the times you thought God wasn't listening, and you'll see that you were being heard all along. This is the perspective that comes with time and faith. This is the wisdom that comes from trusting the process. This is the peace that comes from leaving it in God's hands. And it's available to you right now, not someday when everything works out, not eventually when all your problems are solved. Right now, exactly as you are, exactly where you are. You don't have to wait until you're perfect to trust God. You don't have to wait until you have it all figured out to have faith. You don't have to wait until your life looks a certain way to surrender your burdens. You can do it now. You can do it right in the middle of your mess. You can do it while you're still hurting, while you're still struggling, while you're still scared. In fact, that's the best time to do it. When you're at the end of your rope, when you've tried everything else, when you have nowhere else to turn, that's when surrender becomes real. That's when faith becomes genuine. That's when trust becomes transformative. So if you're there right now, if you're at that place where you can't carry this anymore, if you're at that point where you need help, if you're at that moment where you're ready to let go, I want you to know that this is not a sign of weakness. This is a sign of wisdom. This is not giving up. This is waking up. This is not failure. This is faith. Take whatever burden you've been carrying and mentally place it in God's hands. See yourself physically taking this weight off your shoulders and giving it over to a power greater than yourself. Feel the relief that comes with releasing control. Feel the peace that flows in when you stop resisting. Feel the love that surrounds you when you remember you're not alone. And then, after you've surrendered it, after you've released it, after you've left it in God's hands, let it stay there. Don't pick it back up 5 minutes later. Don't take it back because you're nervous about how things will turn out. Don't grab onto it again because you think you know better. Let it go. Really let it go. Trust that it's being handled. Trust that it's being worked out. Trust that God's got this. This doesn't mean you'll never think about it again. It doesn't mean you'll never feel concerned. It doesn't mean you become completely detached. It means that when the worry comes back, when the fear creeps in, when the anxiety starts to rise, you notice it, you acknowledge it, and then you consciously choose to release it again. You say, no, I already gave this to God. I'm trusting the process. I'm having faith. And you do this as many times as necessary. This is the practice. This is the spiritual work. This is how you build your faith muscles and strengthen your trust and deepen your connection to the divine. Every time you catch yourself trying to take back control and you consciously choose to surrender again, you're growing. You're evolving. You're becoming more aligned with your true spiritual nature. This is not always easy. Some days it will feel natural and peaceful. Other days it will feel impossible and you'll struggle. And that's okay. That's part of being human. What matters is that you keep coming back to it. You keep choosing faith. You keep trusting. You keep leaving it in God's hands. And over time, something beautiful happens. The peace that felt temporary starts to feel more permanent. The trust that felt shaky starts to feel more solid. The faith that felt weak starts to feel stronger. And you realize that you're changing. Not because your circumstances have necessarily changed, but because you have changed. Your relationship with life has changed. Your understanding of how the universe works has changed. Your connection to God has changed. You're no longer someone who falls apart at every obstacle. You're no longer someone who's controlled by fear. You're no longer someone who thinks they have to do everything alone. You've become someone who knows how to surrender. You've become someone who understands the power of faith. You've become someone who trusts that they're always being guided and supported by something greater than themselves. This transformation is what's waiting for you on the other side of surrender. This peace is what's available when you truly leave it in God's hands. This strength is what you discover when you stop trying to be strong all by yourself and instead allow yourself to be strengthened by divine power. So let go, release your grip, open your hands, stop fighting so hard, stop trying to control what you cannot control, stop carrying burdens you were never meant to carry alone, put them down, hand them over. Leave them in God's hands. Trust that you are seen, trust that you are heard, trust that you are loved, trust that you are guided, trust that everything is working out for your highest good, even if you can't see how yet. Trust that your prayers are being answered, even if not in the way you expected. Trust that your pain has purpose, even if you don't understand it yet. And most of all, trust that you are not alone. You have never been alone. In your darkest moments, in your deepest pain, in your greatest struggles, God has been there. God has seen every tear. God has heard every cry. God has felt every heartbreak. And God is working on your behalf right now, in this very moment, arranging circumstances, aligning opportunities, preparing blessings that you cannot yet imagine. Your job is simply to trust, to have faith, to keep going, to take one step at a time, and to leave the rest in God's hands. Do this, and you will find peace. Do this, and you will find strength. Do this, and you will find that you're capable of handling whatever life brings your way. Not because you're doing it alone, but because you finally understood that you never had to. You were always meant to walk this path hand in hand with the divine, supported by infinite love, guided by infinite wisdom, held by infinite grace. Leave it in God's hands and watch what happens. Watch how things shift. Watch how doors open. Watch how solutions appear. Watch how your burden lifts. Watch how your peace deepens. Watch how your faith grows. Watch how your life transforms. Not always in the ways you expect, but always in the ways you need. Always at the perfect time. Always for your highest good. Always with love. Always with purpose. Always with grace. This is the promise. This is the truth. This is the way. Leave it in God's hands and trust that you are being taken care of, because you are. Right now, always, forever.